What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40k. So, for the longest time, one of my favorite armies have been that of the Blood Angels. These guys are really badass. They're very good in close combat. They basically have a curse that makes them vampire space marines in 40k. They've also been stricken with the Black Rage, and their Primarch is my favorite of all the Primarchs, Sanguinius. This guy is just a badass whenever he appears on the page of the Horus Heresy novels, but unfortunately, he met a drastic end. And ever since then, the Blood Angels have kind of been struggling to kind of become the chapter they were always meant to be. You've got Dante, which is constantly getting pushed to the limit, and you have a mysterious figure known as the Sanguinor that arrives at the direst moment and helps them overcome their enemies. And for the longest time, the Sanguinor has always been an enigma. Who is it? Why is it a thing? Like, is it the shadow of Sanguinius? Is it a warp entity similar to the Legion of the Damned? So let's go into this excerpt from the Ruined Storm novel to find out the birth of the Sanguinor and figure out what this thing is. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive into this 40k lore. On the threshold of the portal in the temple, Sanguinius saw what he must do. Here time changed. Here the War Master fell. Here the angel was tempted. Here the galaxy pivoted. As Kelion reached the threshold, he hunched against the blasts, racked by pain, but no less determined than Guilliman and the Lion. "Free your Primarch," Guilliman shouted, as Kelion reached forwards in the vortex of warp and materium. Layers of his armor peeled away in the storm. "My lord," he cried to Sanguinius, "give me your hand." "No," replied Sanguinius, "I must stay here." As Kelion froze, rigid with horror. "Roboot," Sanguinius rasped. Speaking was difficult. Battered by the instability of the portal, he was weakening. He clutched the seconds as they went by, holding them with the slender silver thread of hope that was all that remained to him. "Leave me. Leave Davin now. I will hold the demon as long as I can." He looked at the Lion. "Now is the time. Destroy this world." The portal linked Davin and the Veritas Ferrum. The planet had been dead, but now it was convulsing with power. Sanguinius writhed in pain. He dared not wonder if he could last until the evacuations were complete. He could not think of the hours, only of the seconds. One by one, he would have to hold for this next one, and the following. Then he would fight to hold for the next. Medael strained futilely against the spear of Telesto. "This is not your fate," it raged. "Fall or rule, for you do not fall here." Sanguinius ignored the demon. He had to. He had to hope for a meaningful death, and that was too precious. "Go," he pleaded with Guilliman. He turned his eyes to Askelion. "With my last breath, I will spare my sons," he thought. "Go." Askelion took a step away, his face a mirror of Sanguinius' agony. He could not disobey his Primarch, but the order was condemning him to the unthinkable. The Black Rage crawled into the back of Sanguinius' skull, coiling, ready to spread its cancer through the millennia. He was sparing his legion nothing. His death would still be the trauma that would bestow his legacy of madness. Whether his sons reviled to the death at the hands of Horus, or here on Davin, the result would be the same. The doom was in his blood. Kurz was right. His fate and that of the Blood Angels could not be altered. Perhaps Conrad Kurz was wrong. If Sanguinius could not save his sons, he might still prevail and preserve the Imperium. His death could have meaning. The sacrifice of his legion could have meaning. Here and now, in this act, there was meaning. But there was also no choice. Kurz was right there too, if not for the reason he thought. Medael and Davin must be destroyed. There was no other action open to Sanguinius. There was the duty of the second, and he held fast. The thoughts flashed through Sanguinius' mind in the time it took for Askelion to retreat a single step. The rest of the Sanguinary Guard, and beyond them Ultramarines and Dark Angels, had formed a wall, blocking all access to the portal. No more demons were coming through it. Instead, those still in the hall had turned back, trying to reach their fallen priest. The tremors continued to shake the temple. 2 storms battered the hall, and the portal raged at the edge of extinction. The struggle beyond created a curtain of sorcerous fire, exploding shells and igniting promethium. Legionaries and demons destroyed one another. "Go," Sanguinius pleaded. A new armored figure knelt before him. It was his herald. He had not seen the legionary approach. He had marched with the Sanguinary Guard into Taphnos. Sanguinius could not remember, but he was there now, as he had come to the angel on the Red Tear, as indeed he had answered the first need of Macragge. His power sword upraised, he held his hand out to the angel. He said nothing. His gesture was eloquent. "I will take your place. Let this burden be mine." Sanguinius looked up into the helmet of his unknown son, and his path became clear. His duty could not end here. He could not protect his sons from their doom, for his duty would be to fight until the appointed end came to him. Theirs would be to fight on, and bear the dual burden of the thirst and the rage, until salvation or oblivion would come for them. And he did not hesitate. He had no doubts now. This too was fate. In the depths of this pain, he experienced a bleak hope and a bitter joy. He had always been meant to stand at the juncture of timelines, and though there was flux, there was also possibility. He had always been meant to reach this point, and to receive this offer from the one blood angel who could make it for him. There were too many symmetries, too many echoes, for the meaning of this moment to be otherwise. Once before on Cygnus Prime, a son had taken the place of the father. Meros had sacrificed himself. He had become the Red Angel. He had embodied the thirst, become the worst of the Blood Angels' nature. On the Red Tear, the Herald had banished Sanguinius' madness. He had confronted the Primarch with the best of what he was. The best was there now. He would suffer for the Angel. He was the perfect offering for the Fates. No choice, Sanguinius grasped. The pain of the truth was as great as the physical agony that wrenched him across the portal. Sanguinius turned his back on Ruin. He nodded. The Herald raised his sword, both hands wrapped around the hilt, the blade pointing downwards, and he stepped forwards. "Save your servant," Madale cried. "Who trusts in you? Oh, for!" It snatched at the Herald. As its great claws came together, the air burned around the contours. It tore the fabric of the materium in the frenzy of its effort. With the power that had shattered worlds, that had enveloped a whole system in a boneyard, it hurled itself against the gates of destiny and found them closed. It seized the Herald, but the Herald was already leaning forwards, plunging the sword into the portal. Madale's grasp moved the Blood Angel into the position determined by fate, and the blade struck the demon at the point where it was bisected by the portal, into the wound struck by the spear of Telesto. The Herald stabbed the sword down into the hilt, holding the demon back. Madale screamed with the voice of 1,000 agonies. The shriek clawed down from the vault. Rubble by the ton collapsed into the center of the hall, crushing the demonic horde, even as the abominations recoiled from the scream and moaning of despair. The roof of the temple was suddenly opened to the air. The demon's torso reared up. Its eyes were wide and staring, and they were as blank as the orbs in its skull. Madale was blind. The demon screamed again and again. When Madale arced its back in pain, Sanguinius rose. He yanked the blade and carmine from the demon's shoulder, and he pulled the spear of Telesto from its monstrous body. The weapon burned in his grip, and the spearhead glowed white. He staggered back from the portal, and the Herald stood in the midst of the portal as well, neither in the temple nor in the Vernitas Ferrum. Bestriding realities, enveloped by the storm of the warp, he should have not been visible any longer. He should have vanished the moment he entered the portal. His silhouette was visible, though, bent over the body of the demon, his sword transfixing on the undivided. The edges of his outline trembled, as if the Immaterium sought to eat away at his being. His stance over the writhing demon was strong. He was motionless, already a symbol more than a warrior of flesh and bone, and he would stand until his work was done. "We have little time," Sanguinius said to his brothers. "We must act while my son holds fate at the crossroads. We must honor his sacrifice." It felt like a crime, like a new form of treachery, to turn his eyes from the herald and the miracle of that silhouette in the portal. And at that last moment, he witnessed a greater miracle. He saw the outline of wings spring from the herald's shoulder. A new angel came into being. "Son of my blood," Sanguinius cried, "son of my hope." And the angel blazed with gold. And there you have it, guys. What an epic excerpt from Ruinstorm. It is such an interesting thing that we have witnessed here. For Sanguinius was getting ready to sacrifice himself when he knew that for his death came at the hands of his brother, his best friend, Horus, and he was willing to overcome the fates to die in the middle of this portal. But again, we're talking about fate, and fate would not have him fall here. And that is when the Sanguinor, or at least the person that became the Sanguinor, sacrificed himself to hold the portal shut, hold the demonic at bay, and maybe with the turmoil of the warp, birth this new creature, this new being into the cosmos. And here we have the Sanguinor, the hope and the rage of Sanguinius made manifest to help his sons all across time. And since the warp is kind of timeless, you can kind of play around with that. And it's a very interesting read here. Overall, really awesome fight scenes that we have. I greatly recommend you guys read the entirety of Ruinstorm. Anything that has to do with Sanguinius is one of my favorite parts of the Horus Heresy. These novels are just amazing. And yeah, that's all I got for today. It didn't really answer the question concretely, what is the Sanguinor, who is the Sanguinor? But we kind of get to infer that it is Sanguinius' hope and rage intertwining with the warp to create a being that is needed where his sons are fighting their hardest and needing that hope. So, crazy things we can expect with the warp. What other craziness has the warp birthed out that you guys want me to cover? Let me know down in the comments and I'll get to that as well. And that's all I got for today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you then. Peace.